Welcome to the Insurance Hot Seat, a special series by the Geek Freaks podcast dedicated to answering the tough questions in the insurance industry.
The Insurance Hot Seat.
Today's guest is Victor Congionti with provendata, and we're going to talk about, I guess, kind of the environment today that you and I are talking in.
Sure, absolutely. So I think probably one of the most critical things that we should be talking about today is working from home remotely. If you saw today in the news, the New York governor issued he's going to issue an executive order basically stating that all non-essential employees, about 50% of them actually, should be working from home. So that's going to open up all sorts of risks. And, I think it's a pretty critical topic in today's environment.
Now it's crazy, right? So we've had a tremendous so let me back up. Before COVID, we had, I would wager to say 80% of our customers didn't really have a mobile remote strategy, right? Fast forward to where we are today, and now we are pressing the gas down for everybody to work remotely. And where you guys are in New York, I'm sure the clamps are going to be getting put down sooner than later. It sounds like in the next day or two, and it's crazy to see. I've had probably 25, 30 conversations about it. We probably have 50 to 100 devices loaned out right now to allow people to work from home. Now, at provendata, how do you guys come into play with working remotely, or I guess kind of the crisis in hand? Like, where do you guys fit in?
Sure. So vast majority of our clients are calling us as a result of ransomware attack.
Oh, yeah.
And as I'm sure you're aware, what's going on in that landscape. But they're calling us as a result of an attack, and we're essentially helping them recover their data and also protect them from future threats. We're also removing the threat actor from their network and ensuring that once we help them recover the files, he's not going to come back and essentially cause the same amount of damage by encrypting the entire network again. That's where we fit in. We're also right now we have a campaign to help small businesses and provide free consultations and guidance to help them protect their remote infrastructures.
Yeah.
Because the big problem is that a lot of these small businesses, they're not set up to work from home, right?
No.
And they don't have company issued computers. They don't have vast majority of these employees are going to be using their own devices.
Yep.
So that's going to pose all sorts of risks, and I think right now really have to just create awareness around that and what needs to be done and get the word out. So
to sum it up right now, Proven is kind of the gatekeepers of networks and infrastructure. And not only if somebody does get in, you guys are going to tell them how they did and, close that door essentially.
Correct. Yeah. If we're performing like a forensic investigation, then yeah, we can tell them, yeah, this is how they got in. This is what they did. This is the data that they exfiltrated from the network.
That's awesome.
And we can give them a full, pretty much report of what happened.
So from your guys' seats, are you guys seeing an increase? And I know we are. So you're probably seeing it at a much larger, national level. Here locally, we're seeing an influx of COVID emails and attempts at phishing and all that kind of stuff. So are you seeing that at a much, national level or a much higher level that they're using COVID to, make inroads into the network?
Yeah, I mean, anytime there's a crisis, there's always going to be ways to exploit fear, and in this case, that's exactly what these hackers are doing. And a lot of their phishing campaigns, they're changing their emails. So what they're essentially doing is putting out fake information sites that supposedly um, they're for the CDC or World Health Organization, and they're actually embedded with malware and ransomware. So that's a lot of stuff we're seeing.
So that's, yeah, and that's unfortunate. And like I was explaining to a customer, it's not going to stop, right? They're going to use the momentum of the current environment and situations and kind of try to ride it in and through. Have you guys had on your end, have you guys seen a lot of actual success with this recently? Or is it, I guess, becoming more of an old hat and people are really understanding the phishing and how that's working?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of our customers are coming to us, that specifically from a ransomware incident. The good majority of these attacks are through RDP or remote desktop protocol brute force hacks. So, like what they're doing for those that they're not familiar, they're cracking essentially a password on the network that is a weak password, and they are doing a port scan of a network to determine if remote desktop is open, and then once it's open, they see that it's a potential target to launch these attacks. And I would say about 95% of the cases we see are remote desktop hacks, not so much email campaigns, but we do see about the rest 5% are the email campaigns.
That's crazy. It's crazy to think that people are still leaving those ports open, but I guess it's more of a commonplace and not really a forward thought when you're setting up something like that either. You just ease of use, let's get in and get after it, and we never get back to closing that up.
Yeah, exactly. And now that you have these small businesses working from home, they're going to be opening up these ports, and they may not have the right security protocols in place. So that's going to be a big problem, and we're going to be seeing a lot of those.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, because that I feel like if we're going to put the finger on the pulse of business right now, what are you seeing as far as remote working, or I mean, maybe 5 tips, takeaways, something that some of these small businesses listening can kind of maybe put an effect on their own, or reach out to people like yourself and get the ball rolling?
Sure. So first things first, I think, as we all know, been talked about so much, just make sure you have strong passwords. Utilizing a password manager is essential. And now that you're going to be off your company network, it's a good idea to use a VPN.
Yep.
And so with that, you're going to also need to patch your network. You're also going to need to patch your router, and any other devices that can be potentially compromised on your network. And having a multi-factor login, right? Like 2-factor authentication to log in to sites, to your, if you're using remote desktop, we highly suggest that. I think if you have those covered, you're going to stop the majority of these attacks.
Yeah, and I think that goes, so we don't allow RDP out, so it's only internal, so you have to VPN to get it. And I don't think a lot of companies are looking at it that way. There's probably a lot of companies too that maybe listening right now that have that Best Buy router that's still set to admin. And that's another thing that you've seen probably get popped is people don't take the proper care of their interfaces, facing the outside world. So yeah, that's great to change those passwords, get strong passwords.
Yeah, exactly. And you guys are your MSP from my understanding. And,
yeah.
And just question to you, what are you doing there at your company for these for these types of attacks, because a lot of our clients are actually MSPs, and we see them as kind of a gateway to all these other businesses, right? So if we see an MSP compromised, we're also seeing like 15, 20 other clients that were compromised as a result of first hacking into the MSP.
Oh, yeah. So we take that very seriously here with us. So everything's two form factor. Passwords all have to be changed every 90 days for the login, right? So then you hit the two form factor. Every interface that we use, so every web portal has two form factor enabled. We check it, and then we use two. So we use the RMM we use is backed by TeamViewer, and that's even got two form factor. So you can't connect without doing two form factor. And we use a program called QuickPass that rotates admin passwords, so we don't actually know them. It's just kind of a copy and paste deal, so we don't get to look at the passwords anymore. We can still see them, but they're going to change in a couple days, so it doesn't matter. It's just a couple of things that we do to keep ourselves safe and not liable for that kind of stuff, because that's, like you're saying, is we're connected to just south of 100 customers, and if something goes wrong, we are going to be in a hot spot, right? So we have to take that very seriously with what we're doing too, and that's why we only allow traditionally we only allow certain people to VPN in or get access remotely to their stuff unless they sign waivers and all that other fun stuff. But right now,
sure,
how we're attacking the remote from home is we're giving them access via VPN with remote desktop, kind of what you and I were just talking about, or TeamViewer with 2FA turned on, and TeamViewer back into their machines if they have a machine at home. And we've even had some people that want to take their work computers, their desktops home, because they know they're going to be out for an extended period of time.
Yeah, we're seeing that.
It's getting and it's not one size fits all, right? So we have small agencies or small customers that TeamViewer makes sense for, and then we have some larger agencies that VPN remote desktop makes a lot of sense for. We have a few customers that run VMware Horizons, but that's all ran through AD and two form factor too. So it's been crazy. It's been a lot of work, and I'm sure you guys are seeing it on your end now that everybody's kind of spreading out how the threats that are, I guess, the threat planes are being exposed for what they are.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you guys seen any uptick in, I guess, ransomware right now, like attacks that have been successful, or is it just preparing for the worst now that we're opening the doors, not opening the doors to the house, but we're unlocking the doors to the house on some level?
Yeah, so right now we haven't seen so much an uptick. We do see like different types of campaigns targeting, just the fear of COVID-19. And we expect that to increase as the situation gets worse. So we want to really prepare for the worst, just to be proactive as possible and taking all the necessary actions in the meantime.
So tell me kind of so I'm a company, right? And I get attacked by ransomware. I contact you guys. What does that look like? So walk me through that process from, oh no, we're in trouble, to, okay, we're going to be okay. What's that look like through, I guess, Proven's process?
Sure. So a company contacts us. They set up a remote evaluation, sign our terms of service. We connect, and essentially we're gathering data points about the ransomware variant, how it came in, any IP addresses that are associated. We collect a full triage. So we have information that, we can conduct internal reviews about, if it's like an IP, for instance, that came from a sanctioned entity, we can't proceed really any further. But after we do a kind of like a forensic analysis.
Yep.
Once we collect all the data points, we then we look at our data on the specific ransomware variant, and we have like threat profiles we created for each of these different ransomware types, and we then provide a quote to our client, pretty much letting them know, okay, this is, if it's something that they in fact have to pay the ransom, let's say,
No backups.
we'll tell them like, okay, yeah, no backups. We did all the due diligence, checked all that stuff. We'll tell them like, hey, this malware actor has a history of not delivering on the keys, right? So, you want to take this risk. Or, we'll tell them like the probability, like, okay, like 75% of the time that this guy's been honorable. There's been cases where he's increased the ransom. And they ultimately have to make a business decision how they want to proceed. Do they want to take on the risk? So from that point on, if they do approve the service, we'll provide guidance on how to close up the vulnerability. If they didn't already decide to use us initially for the security hardening and remediation aspect. So we'll provide guidance on that. Then we start our process, with all the different variants out there. Each one is treated differently, obviously. We know which ones exploit RDP. So we know that, okay, this one has to, we have to close up RDP or reset passwords, do an inventory of user accounts, and given really detailed instructions on what to do, how to close up the vulnerability. That's what it looks like initially. Then we provide our service, which includes negotiating with the threat actor on their behalf, and also making the ransom payment on their behalf. That's pretty much at high level. There's a lot of things in between there that is very detailed, but we only have 20 minutes.
No, and I feel like a lot of people too, when they do have something like that happen, they panic and they just either restore, which is always the best, right? Because you don't have to pay any money. It's got to make sure you get good backups going, or they don't know what to do next. So it's great that companies like you guys exist. I know in our arena, it's good to have partners like you guys and available for customers if they do have issues. So that's awesome. And you guys it's interesting that you guys have to kind of keep a profile on each variant so you know kind of who to contact, how it's going to go, and what you guys learned. That's very interesting to me.
Yeah, and also for the new variants to come out, like let's say there's not a lot of information out there because there's often times where we'll see a ransomware variant, like we'll be the first ones to see it. There's no other security firm that has information on it. So the first thing we do is send it to our malware R&D person, and he'll check the probability of it being cracked or not. If it's, when I say cracked, I mean, is there a vulnerability in the code that the hacker was just careless and left open, right? There's been cases where they were able to, see that, find that, and essentially provide a working decryptor.
Oh, nice.
Without having to pay the ransom. So that's ideally the situation that we would like to see, or the backup restoration of the backups. But that's best scenario.
Yeah, we did another podcast where it says that we were talking about the average ransomware cost is like quadrupled right now. Used to be a couple thousand, now it's like $40,000 to get your data back. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, like a lot, especially with these targeted attacks. We've seen these ransomware actors actually go onto a network, look at financial data, and tell the victim that, hey, I see that you're making X amount of money. You can afford a $15 million ransom.
Jeez. Yeah,
it's insane.
No, and
it's absolutely insane.
It's only gonna. I was just having a conversation about this morning. It's only gonna get more sophisticated and more, I guess, difficult to deal with. So it's great that companies like yours exist, And so if anybody wanted to reach out, so somebody listening to this podcast gets in a jam, how do they get a hold of you at Proven?
Best way to reach us, you can go to provendata.com, or we're on the web. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, on YouTube, Twitter, whatever medium works for you.
That's awesome. And I appreciate the time. It's always great to have kind of this. Oh wait, I got another question before we get you going, before I get you out of here.
Sure.
Right now, with everybody working from home, if you had to give them, a couple tips right now as you're sitting there at your desk at home, what are we, like, from a security standpoint? Is there anything that they can do? I mean, besides have, a password on their computer, because they're going to be connected remotely
Absolutely.
into the network via VPN. So they're also now unlocking the door and connecting to it from a BYOD or bring your own device type situation.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you asked me that question again, because there's one thing I did forget to mention, and that's just be very careful on what links you're clicking on and what emails you're receiving. And even if it's from a trusted source, always verify what you're clicking on by either calling the person that sent it or using sites that are reputable. If you see an email from the World Health Organization, you're likely not gonna get that. Go directly to their site if you're looking for any information, and just be very careful.
Yeah,
of what you're clicking on.
It's amazing how many of those WHO emails are going out like they have everybody's email address in the world. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I would say that's the biggest thing to look out for right now.
The other thing I was thinking about too, now that we're talking about it, is making sure you have a pretty quality antivirus on the remote machine that you're using from home. And even Windows Defender at this point is a pretty good solution, but just making sure that there's something there, because again, with a split VPN, that traffic's not necessarily being checked by the firewall. So just make sure you got something to cover your buns.
Yes, exactly.
Because once you connect to that VPN, you're back into the network, and it could be trouble. I don't think it's going to be trouble, but it could be trouble. So, well, perfect, buddy. I appreciate the time. Stay safe. I would say stay warm, but it's going to start warming up, and we can't really go outside anyway. So stay safe, and I appreciate the time today, Victor.
Great, Ron. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Have a good one.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.